The sky above Erebus 9 burned crimson as the Dominion fleet broke from warp. Hundreds of warships stretched across the upper atmosphere, blotting out stars like a storm of blades. Their hulls, jagged and black, pulsed with weapon fire as they descended. The colony's emergency sirens screamed, warning far too late. Civilians flooded comms with desperate pleas, their voices overlapping in a rising tide of panic. "They're here, God help us, they've found us. This is Governor Amani, transmitting to all systems, we request immediate aid. Anyone, please. Mom, if you get this." The Dominion never answered distress calls. They silenced them with fire. In the capital city, shadows of warships cut across the sky like wounds. Families clutched one another, staring upward at the inevitable. Across the galaxy, no one ever resisted the Dominion. Tribute was paid, or worlds were erased. That was the way of things, until now. Far from the planet's surface, in the black silence of orbit, a single human vessel tore free from warp. Its hull gleamed pale silver against the void, smooth and unadorned compared to the Dominion's brutalist designs. Its designation blinked onto long-range scanners, UNS Dauntless. Only one ship. On the bridge, Captain Elias Vera leaned forward in his command chair. His gaze swept the tactical display as Dominion icons swarmed across the screen. There were too many to count, and that was the point. They wanted the humans to see their numbers and surrender without resistance. "Status?" Elias asked, voice calm, steady. "Shields at full. Rail capacitors charging. AI tactical ready," reported Lieutenant Ree, hands dancing across the console. Despite the tension, her tone mirrored her captain's restraint. The crew had been drilled for this moment. Nerves showed in the flicker of eyes, the tightness of jaws, but no one faltered. A Dominion transmission cut through the comms, dripping with scorn. A scaled visage appeared on the holodisplay, a commander, his armor slick with crimson insignia. "Human vessel. Your world is forfeit. Surrender your colony, disarm your craft, and perhaps your people will be permitted slavery instead of annihilation." Silence held on the bridge for a breath. Elias rose, straight-backed, his voice carrying across the channel like a blade's edge. "This is Captain Elias Vera of the UNS Dauntless. You will withdraw your fleet immediately. Any act of aggression will be answered with force." Laughter, sharp and cruel, echoed back. "One ship? Against the Dominion? You amuse me, pray." The channel cut. Dominion warships advanced, confident, arrogant. Elias lowered himself back into his chair, tone unchanged. "Target their lead cruiser. Rail batteries, full charge." The ship's AI pulsed a confirmation, its voice cool and precise. "Solution locked. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The deck shuddered as Dauntless unleashed its first strike. A white-hot lance of kinetic force ripped across space, piercing the cruiser's shields as if they were mist. The projectile tore through armored plating, igniting the ship's reactor. A heartbeat later, the Dominion vessel erupted into a starburst of fire. On Erebus 9, millions of eyes tilted skyward as the impossible unfolded. A Dominion warship, destroyed by a single shot. The galaxy had never seen the Dominion bleed. "Impact confirmed," Ree announced, disbelief flickering beneath her professionalism. On open channels, chaos broke out among the enemy formation. Voices, harsh and guttural, barked orders, disbelieving. The Dominion had always crushed resistance effortlessly. Now they hesitated. Elias studied the tactical display, watching the ripple of shock move through the enemy fleet. He knew the effect was as important as the strike itself. Fear cut deeper than any weapon. "Maintain silence," he ordered. "No celebration. No chatter. They need to think this was routine for us." The bridge steadied, discipline returning. Across the sector, encrypted networks lit up with intercepted footage. Subjugated civilizations whispered in awe, their despair cracking for the first time in centuries. The humans fought back. The humans destroyed one. Elias allowed himself a fleeting thought of Earth, of oceans rising, wars that nearly ended them, the desperate unity that followed. Humanity had stared down extinction once before. They had survived it, reforged into something relentless. He would make sure the galaxy understood that truth. Another calm burst filled the bridge, this time from the Dominion admiral overseeing the assault. The alien's eyes glowed with fury. "You will regret that insolence, human. We will peel the skin from your world and string your bones as warning." Elias didn't flinch. His reply was level, almost quiet. "No. You will regret believing we were prey." He cut the channel before the alien could speak again. The Dominion moved in force now. Cruisers spread into an encirclement pattern, carriers deploying swarms of interceptors. The intent was clear: overwhelm the lone human ship beneath sheer mass of fire. Elias gave his orders in measured rhythm. "Micro-warp maneuvers. Pattern Sigma. Keep their firing solutions broken. Target engines, not hulls. We cripple, we humiliate." Dauntless flickered in and out of local space, each jump no longer than a few kilometers. Enemy volleys cut only vacuum as the human vessel reappeared behind them, rail cannons tearing through thrusters and power arrays. Dominion ships spun adrift, helpless, their formations unraveling. On the colony below, cheers erupted where minutes before there had only been screams. Children pointed at the sky, where streaks of fire marked Dominion wreckage. For the first time in their lives, they believed survival was possible. Still, Elias knew the cost. One ship could not defeat an empire. This battle was not victory, it was defiance. The Dominion would answer with fury, and humanity would be marked for destruction. He accepted it with a steady heart. Better to ignite hope with fire than to die in silence. On a private channel, Lieutenant Reese spoke softly, almost to herself. "Sir, we've painted a target on all of us." Elias' gaze never left the tactical display. "We were targets the moment we left Earth. The difference is now they know we bite." Hours away, within the Dominion throne world, the message reached High Overlord Carthuan. The old warlord reclined on his obsidian dais, claws tapping against the armrest as he watched the human footage. One ship crippling his cruisers. One voice defying his empire. His lips curled into a slow, predatory smile. "So the cattle bare their teeth. Good. I grow bored of slaughtering the meek. Let us see how loudly they howl when the pack closes in." In orbit of Erebus 9, the Dominion fleet regrouped, fury building. The Dauntless stood alone, silver against the darkness, its rail guns cooling as the crew readied for the next wave. For the first time in generations, the galaxy held its breath. And humanity, forgotten and underestimated, had just lit the match. The wreckage of the Dominion cruiser still burned across Erebus 9's sky, a trail of molten fragments raining harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. For the colonists below, it was more than debris, it was proof. Proof that the monsters who had ruled the galaxy through fear were not invincible. On the bridge of the UNS Dauntless, silence hung heavy. No one dared to relax. The Dominion fleet still numbered in the hundreds, forming a tightening ring around them. "Enemy reinforcements adjusting into attack formation," reported Tactical Officer Soren, his eyes flicking over the holo display. "Their interceptors are swarming ahead. Estimate, 2,000 closing in." Captain Elias Vera stood at the center of the command pit, posture rigid, voice even. "AI analysis." The ship's synthetic intelligence answered with measured precision. "Probability of direct engagement success, negligible. Recommendation, asymmetric tactics. Exploit Dominion overconfidence." Elias' lips tightened in something between a grimace and a smile. "They expect prey. Let's give them predators." The first wave of Dominion interceptors screamed toward them, engines flaring violet. To the watching galaxy, it looked like a swarm of hornets about to smother a lone wolf. Civilizations tuned in on encrypted channels, bracing for the inevitable. But the Dauntless did not run. "Micro-warp pattern Sigma," Elias ordered. The ship flickered, vanishing from the interceptor's firing arcs. In an instant it reappeared behind them, rail batteries already firing. White lances shredded engines and detonated fuel pods. The swarm collapsed into chaos, colliding, scattering, breaking apart. On the colony's surface, cheers echoed through every shelter. Messages streamed across hidden comms from enslaved worlds, disbelief turning into something dangerous. Hope. Another squadron disabled. Reconfirmed, her voice steady but eyes burning with adrenaline. The comms crackled alive with Dominion command channels, their guttural language thick with fury. Elias didn't need translation to know they were furious. He leaned closer to his crew. They want spectacle. We'll give them one. Sir? Soren asked. Elias activated a wide-frequency broadcast, not aimed at the Dominion, but at every receiver within range. Civilizations watching in fear suddenly found their screens filled with the image of a human captain, standing against the Empire's armada. This is Captain Elias Vera of the United Nations ship Dauntless. You've watched the Dominion slaughter your worlds for centuries. Today, you see what they bleed like. They are not gods. They are not untouchable. They are tyrants. And tyrants can fall. The message was short, sharp, deliberate. It spread across black markets, pirate relays, and hidden networks faster than the Dominion could jam it. On the Dominion flagship overseeing the assault, Admiral Carker bared his fangs in rage. He dares to poison the cattle with lies. Bring me that ship torn open, make his screams the lesson. Fleet-wide orders rang out. Dozens of cruisers advanced, encirclement collapsing into a storm of fire. Brace for heavy fire. Rewarned. The Dauntless danced through the barrage. Miniature warp jumps yanked it across the battlefield, each reappearance perfectly aligned for another devastating strike. Enemy cruisers lost engines, weapons, entire sections gutted by surgical volleys. But numbers pressed close, and the bridge shook under the strain of near misses. Hull plating groaned. Sparks leapt across a console. Still, Elias' voice never rose. Maintain pressure. Target their pride, not their strength. Break their will. Minutes dragged into hours. Dominion ships fell one by one, not destroyed outright but crippled, forced into retreat. The Dauntless was bleeding them without mercy, and the galaxy watched. Between barrages, Elias walked the bridge with controlled calm. His crew drew strength from it. To them, he looked less like a captain and more like a man who had already accepted death, determined to make it count. Privately, he knew the cost. Humanity was no longer hidden. The Dominion would respond with more than this fleet. They would send their master. But better a hunted wolf than a docile lamb waiting for slaughter. During a brief lull, Lieutenant Ree approached, voice low. Captain, do you realize what you've done? That broadcast, it wasn't just defiance. You've lit the fuse. Every enslaved world will see it. Elias met her gaze. His tone was calm, but the weight behind it pressed on everyone who overheard. That was the point. Fear is the Dominion's weapon. Hope is ours. If they rise when they see us fight, then humanity will not stand alone. Soren, younger and less hardened, asked the question that had been circling silently. But what if they don't rise? What if they wait, and we're left alone against the storm? Elias turned back to the viewport, where the Dominion fleet loomed. His answer was quiet, but unshakable. Then humanity stands alone. And we make sure the galaxy never forgets how we fought. The next wave came harder, larger ships moving into the fray. Heavy dreadnoughts unleashed plasma storms that tore chunks of rock from Erebus 9's surface. The colony shuddered under the barrage. Shields dropping to 70%, Ree reported. Elias narrowed his eyes. Time to wound their pride. Target their dreadnoughts. Full lance fire. The Dauntless vanished and reappeared above a Dominion behemoth. A thunderous strike ripped through its shield core, igniting its reactors. Fire rolled across the hull, splitting the warship in two. For the first time in living memory, a Dominion dreadnought died in battle. The galaxy exploded in whispers. On his throne world, High Overlord Carthan received the report. His clawed hand tightened on the armrest until the metal shrieked. Yet his expression wasn't anger, it was amusement. At last, prey with fangs. His voice slithered through the chamber, every warlord trembling at its weight. Signal all fleets. The humans are mine. I will break their captain before the galaxy. Back on Dauntless, the crew recovered from the shockwave of their latest kill. The bridge smelled of scorched circuitry, but morale surged. We did it, Soren whispered, disbelief in his tone. Elias only shook his head. No. We've baited the wolf. He's coming. The crew exchanged glances, unsettled. They all knew who he meant. Carthun had never personally entered a campaign in decades. His presence was reserved for spectacles, for breaking those who dared defy him. Rhee's voice was barely audible. If he comes here, Captain, that means the Dominion will throw everything at us. Elias nodded once, his expression carved from stone. Then we'll show them everything we are. Below, on Erebus 9, families huddled in shelters, whispering prayers mixed with new words: hope, defiance, freedom. Across the galaxy, sparks lit in the darkness, whispers on every enslaved world, rumors of humans who fought back, of a single warship that turned the tide. On the bridge, Elias stood before the vast expanse, watching Dominion ships regroup. His reflection stared back from the viewport, pale against the dark. He spoke softly, not just to his crew but to anyone who would hear. Better to be hunted wolves than silent sheep. The Dominion forces surged again, fury mounting. But the galaxy had already changed. Humanity had shown its teeth, and no one could unsee it. The void quaked as the Dominion flagship tore through space. It was less a vessel than a floating fortress, the Oblivion's Wrath, a dreadnought the size of a continent, bristling with guns that could crack moons. Its arrival blotted out sensors, its sheer mass bending gravity wells. Every screen on Erebus 9 flickered as the Dominion forced a galaxy-wide broadcast. Billions across enslaved worlds were made to watch. On the flagship's throne dais, High Overlord Carthun leaned forward, his scales glistening black in the glow of the void. His voice rolled like thunder across every channel. Behold! The humans dared to bite. Now you will see them broken. On the bridge of the UNS Dauntless, Captain Elias Vera stood silent, hands clasped behind his back. His crew looked out at the monstrous flagship that dwarfed their ship 1,000-fold. Even the most disciplined felt their throats tighten. Lieutenant Rhee's voice was steady, but only barely. That thing could tear us apart with one volley. Elias' reply was quiet, unflinching. So could Earth's wars. And yet here we stand. The crew straightened. If their captain was not afraid, either would they be. The Dominion opened fire. A barrage of plasma storms erupted from Oblivion's Wrath, engulfing the void in fire. The Dauntless vanished in a blink, micro-warping clear of the blast, reappearing at the flagship's flank. Rail lances fired, striking its armor. The projectiles barely scorched the surface. Soren cursed under his breath. We're gnats against a mountain. Elias' eyes narrowed. Mountains fall when fault lines are struck. Find them. The AI interjected, its tone neutral. Analyzing flagship schematics. Weakness identified, shield harmonics unstable near reactor vent arrays. Elias gave a single nod. Then we carve a path to its heart. The Dauntless darted through incoming fire, warping in and out of space like a phantom. Dominion escorts surged forward, trying to screen their flagship. Elias turned their mass against them. Target their engines. Disable, don't destroy. One by one, escorts went dark, drifting hulks cluttering the battle space. The flagship's massive guns hesitated to fire, lest they strike their own vessels. Keep them tangled, Elias ordered. Every ship between us and Carthun is a shield for him, or a weapon for us. The crew obeyed without question, weaving destruction into strategy. For every scar the Dauntless suffered, Dominion losses multiplied. Finally, the path opened. The Dauntless faced Oblivion's Wrath alone, nothing between them. The flagship loomed like a black star, weapons flaring. Carthun himself appeared on the comms, his presence filling the bridge with cold menace. His voice was a growl of contempt. You are brave, little human. But bravery is nothing before power. Kneel, and I may let your species serve instead of burn. Elias leaned into the transmission, eyes steady, voice firm. Fragile things fight hardest to survive. And we've survived worse than you. Carthuan's lips peeled back in a predator's smile. Then die screaming. The battle roared. The flagship unleashed its full arsenal, a hurricane of fire that bent reality around it. The Dauntless warped, dodged, countered, its rail cannons hammering weak points again and again. Still, the Dominion's shields held. Shields at 30%. Rewarned. Hull breach on deck 7. Elias didn't hesitate. Seal it. All power to lances. Then he gave the order that would define the legend. Deploy the Singularity torpedo. Gasps rippled through the bridge. It was Earth's final weapon, untested outside simulations, a controlled black hole contained in a warhead. The crew executed without question. The torpedo launched, vanishing into warp before slamming against the flagship's shield node. Space itself rippled, a scream of torn gravity. The Dominion's defenses collapsed in an instant. The galaxy watched in silence as the invincible ship's shields died. Elias seized the moment. Fire all rails. Everything we have. The Dauntless unleashed its full fury. Lances of kinetic energy tore through Oblivion's wrath, ripping armor from its spine. Explosions cascaded along its surface as secondary reactors detonated. On the Dominion throne dais, Carthuan's comm cracked, his roar echoing across calms. No! I will not fall to cattle! His voice was swallowed by fire. The Dauntless' final strike pierced the flagship's core. The ship that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries erupted into a supernova of light. The blast painted Erebus 9's sky white, its shockwave rolling across the system. When the light faded, nothing remained of Carthuan or his dreadnought. On the Dauntless, silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at the fading fire where the Dominion's master had died. Soren broke it with a whisper. We killed him! Elias exhaled slowly, eyes fixed forward. No. He killed himself, when he believed fear was stronger than defiance. Across the galaxy, enslaved peoples rose. Chains snapped, rebellions ignited. Hidden networks spread the footage of a single human ship striking down the tyrant who had ruled them for generations. The Dominion's fleets fractured, their warlords scrambling, leaderless, terrified of prey that had become predators. On Erebus 9, colonists poured into the streets, not in despair but in celebration. For the first time in memory, they looked to the sky and saw not terror, but freedom. Later, in the quiet of his ready room, Elias stood alone, staring at the planet below. His reflection on the viewport looked older than his years, scarred by the weight of command. He whispered, not for his crew but for history itself. They terrorized the galaxy, until humanity sent a single warship.